Hi there. Welcome to the Productive AI podcast, where we aim to simplify AI and make it more accessible for business leaders. I'm your host, Troy Angradon, and on today's episode, we're talking with Roy Nallapeta, who is the co-founder of Glance Inc. And we're going to be talking about how AI is being used to help marketers make much more sense of the flood of data that they're dealing with. Now, as a way of introduction, I want to just kind of discuss a little bit of Roy's background. He's got an extensive history coming from the engineering world and software engineering through the data warehousing world, then a business analyst and a consultant, and eventually became a founder of his own digital marketing agency, as well as covered product management, e-commerce platform management, and then even sales. So he's had a fairly wide and broad experience all through the industry with a huge focus on digital agencies and marketers specifically. So, Roy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Troy. That was a very warm and long welcome, if you ask me.
So tell me a little bit about that background. You kind of came out of engineering and then went through the data world and then ultimately ended in the sort of the digital marketing space where you've been for a long time. So just for the context of this conversation, can you share a little bit more about that path that you took to get here?
Absolutely, absolutely. I started as a software engineer, did some coding that went into Walgreens, Java, then moved into the data warehouse world with PepsiCo Frito-Lay. Continued to do some banking software where I did all the data warehousing and then got into e-commerce. The e-commerce world was very exciting, did some consulting, and then the itch to start something was always there. So started a digital marketing agency. Didn't start out as that. It started out as a product company, then morphed into a digital marketing agency. And 7 to 8 years of experience there led me to a situation and a problem identification where I said, okay, even with the digital agency, there's a lot of unsolved problems in marketing. Why not build a product around it? And that was the genesis of Glance AI.
Excellent. And now, what is the situation today? Now, you're building this firm, or are you actually sort of building this on the side and working somewhere, or like how's the whole startup happening?
Well, this is a full-time gig right now.
Great.
There was a transition there, but this is a full-time gig. I'm doing Glance. We did some angel funding. The goal is to build out a smart insights product. We have today the first, what do you call, the first version of it called Smart Console, where we consolidate all the Glance data metrics into one place. And we have some customers going then with 1,000 plus customers going on. We have a Slack bot, which is rated top three in the marketing analytics on the Slack bot marketplace. So all of that is going on right now. And we continue to actively build ad channels and also raise funding.
Excellent. Okay. So it's pretty early days.
It is early days. We're looking for seed funding. We've bootstrapped it so far.
Okay. Excellent. So now you and I had this very brief conversation, but I wanted to sort of have it more on the podcast. If you look at the marketing technology space, it's exploded in the last 5, 6, probably 8 years. And if I'll put a link to this in the show notes, but there's a really great map. Actually, it's a confusing map, which has been built out called the Martech 5000, which used to be 5,000 companies, which now has over 8,000 companies.
Right.
And it's an incredibly overwhelming map of the universe. But if you look at it, if you stand way back, you kind of see there are really 6 different big areas. There's kind of advertising and promotion, content and experience, social and relationships, commerce and sales, data or data management inside the marketing world, and then just general management tools. Where do you live in there? Do you cross over multiple areas in there, or do you live inside one area?
We've started out with the data management space where there's marketing analytics and other things. And we think we'll cross over as we bring automation. So, a part of the marketing automation will be influenced by the AI aspects of what we're trying to build right now.
Okay. So you lived in this world, you worked in these digital marketing agencies, you saw the problems that both the agencies and probably the customers had. So, what was your sort of aha, your big key insight or insights that you had about why you wanted to fix what the problem was and how you wanted to approach it?
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk about it. See, when I looked at the problem, right, after every social media campaign, after every paid ad campaign, we started seeing that in marketing, that they had to answer the same set of questions. Was this campaign working? What was this data right? Was the channel investment good? Everything was retrospective, which means you make a decision, look at it only in hindsight, and then decide whether the decision was wrong. And for the next one, you use the intuition. And it's so it's so primitive, if you ask me, because we're in the age of Tesla, where the car can self-drive itself in a lane for to a long distance, prevent collisions, and to a large extent drive itself. Why can't marketing do that? That was the insight. The second problem I had was, well, why are we asking the same questions? Why are we positing the same theory? Why don't we have a knowledge factory of all our previous experience? We didn't seem to have it. And that was the aha moment that, well, there is the power of data. While creativity has to be fresh, like every new ad campaign, the copy can be fresh. The science behind running a campaign or where to put money shouldn't have to be reinvented every time. So the stopping of the reinventing of the wheel and leverage your knowledge base provoked us into creating Glance.
That makes a ton of sense. And so one of the things you and I talked about offline before this call is kind of the day-to-day experience of these marketers who are maybe either working on their own or working with a digital marketing agency. And if I remember correctly, your comment at the time was they spend a lot of their time confused about where to spend the money or what percentage to allocate to a given channel, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, online or offline, digital or non-digital, and they spend all this time trying to make sense of this deluge of metrics and decision making data that's flowing in from all these applications they're using. Did I capture that accurately? And is there more to that?
You did. There's a little bit more to that I'd like to add. You're still talking about a marketer who you think can capture and has the apparatus to do all of that. But small to medium sized marketers, they don't even have the tools and tech to do all of that. They're locked
Okay.
into silos, they're locked into data silos. So they're looking at metrics like, oh, let me go into Facebook campaign and look at the data. Let me look at the audience segmentation provided in Facebook. And then I look at Google Analytics and say, okay, my audience segmentation here looks different. How can I solve this? And okay, what does the metric in Facebook mean? So they have spent more time analyzing it, interpreting it. Then they've not even done the collation or the cross channel, what do you call, similarities at all to identify what those patterns are. So I'm thinking you spending 30 to 40% staring at dashboards, interpreting and taking an action, which is a big if my interpretation was right. This is the cognitive overload I keep saying about. It's a huge cognitive overload, and we want to take this away because guess what, the machines have done it in the financial world, they've done it in the automotive world. It's time for marketing to have the same.
Yeah, that's great. I love that, and I think that could be your tagline. Hey, if your car can drive itself across town, then certainly your marketing engine can drive itself
Certainly.
through a few campaigns.
Certainly, that's where we want to get to. You're not going to get it on day one, but there's enough
Right.
data to get you there.
Okay. And so the way you're doing this, and I love the way you describe this, is this kind of co-pilot. What did you say? A co-pilot that gives intelligent cross-channel recommendations.
That's
So
correct.
being able to look across those silos, I guess, is that basically what it's doing?
It is. It first connects into all your data. It analyzes the models. It even gives per channel analysis also. Then it does where is the cross channel metrics and smart metrics, right? And when you do cross channel, you can also identify risks. Like, for example, I was quoting a previous experience where I'm talking about, okay, I was running this Facebook campaign, but you're running for an audience of 18 to 34 on Facebook, and your Google Analytics tells you it is 30 5 to 53, which is your target audience. And you know what? You were spending and wasting money. Facebook may be effective, but you were targeting wrong. This is the cross channel intelligence that we want to flow through. And I'm just quoting two channels. Imagine Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, and it's just an
Right.
explosion of channels and metrics there.
And I can't imagine as you're staring at, 50 windows or 20 or 30 windows that you've opened up, all these dashboards for all these different platforms, trying to make sense of I'm sure the data schemas don't line up. And as you said, the categorization of the data doesn't line up. So trying to make sense across all of those things must be an impossibility.
It is a huge task, but it has to be done once. I mean, America is a country where they laid the telegraph wire through thousands of miles. I'm sure we can map out the data. We just have to be given the capital. That's what I think.
Exactly. Okay, so you figure you'll do the work for them one time, and then that way you're essentially rationalizing all of these different data schemas across all these different platforms, so that then the customer can make sense of it more effectively,
And
and your
sometimes,
system can.
you know what? Correct. Sorry, Troy. What I was saying is sometimes it so happens that we may end up realizing some metrics are just vanity metrics. They don't mean anything. I'm not to talk about one single channel, but let's say a mail open rate doesn't mean anything. It's only the click rate for your business. And guess what? If you are a brand agency, a mail open rate means more to you than the click rate, because in a brand, all I'm trying to do is recall. So this kind of specific business specific metric validation, and as well as what it means to you mapping, will continue to happen, and we'll leverage our IP model tree which we have, where we fingerprint the business and say this is the pattern of the business, this benefits from this kind of insights, and any such similar businesses. So we're democratizing the marketing AI models here. That's what I think is the real power.
So I think what's interesting about that is you're basically saying, hey, look, almost like traditional SaaS has always done this for a long time, which is saying, hey, we're going to have a whole bunch of marketing agencies. We can see all of their problems. We can see all of the connection points they need. We can see all of the ways that they need to dig into the data and the questions they're asking. So as we improve this model, everybody gets the updated model.
Absolutely. What we are doing is we're not seeing the data, we're talking about how the model performs for the business. So
Right.
essentially, we're not looking at the data, we're looking at the signals and the models of what is suitable for what kind of business. And that
Right.
is what is informed of. Today, if you go to Google, they severely shortchange you on benchmarks. The only people who do a good job at benchmarks are somebody like email, which is like 20 years old. They have
Right.
benchmarks for every industry type, and you know what you're up against. But
Hmm.
everybody else, you're throwing money to achieve benchmarks that you don't know of. And this kind of benchmarking that we create and start to fine tune the models will greatly benefit the marketer to understand what kind of a business is he. Why is it a moneyless? It's a money sinking pit. I don't want marketing to be a money sinking pit.
Got it. So let's talk about the how. What the life experience is, the day to day experience for the marketer who's using. And I get it that the platform is starting now. You have this dashboard, and you're working your way towards kind of a next generation of that. What is available today, and where are you going, and what is that? What experience will somebody have if they're using this?
Thanks for asking that. Our onboarding is pretty simple, right? You create an account just like anybody else, and then you're prompted to make connectors or connections to your plugins. And the plugins happen to be all the channels. We have about 25 plus channels. You can choose Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Analytics, and everything else. You click, it'll ask you to prompt up a screen to connect your Google Analytics, enter your Google credentials. All the data will come in. You walk away. So the Smart Console has a few advantages. It pulls up what we consider as important metrics. You can create specific views saying that I need these metrics from these channels to show up in a social media view, or you can show an analytics view. You can create those views, And then you can also set up Slack reporting. We've integrated into a Slack bot, so you configure it to any one of your Slack channels and say, I need this metric to be reported to me on a Slack. So right now we've laid the foundation of getting all the data in one place. The AI insights, which we hope to launch in about 6 to 8 weeks, will start showing AI insights for each channel that we launch one by one. So what happens is, what are as you log in, I want to show you the top three alerts for the day, top three insights for the day. This is the upcoming features that we're launching so soon today. But even with the smart console, you log in, you have a complete picture of what's going on. It's like a airplane cockpit. It has all the metrics that you want. As the AI insights come in, we'll tell you if those metrics matter or not.
So the first level of this is really just getting access to all that data. The second level is being able to weed through that data and find the most important signal,
Yep,
as well as provide just a dashboard so that they can see all of it in one place. As you said, a lot of these folks just don't even have a way to see it all in one place. So,
absolutely.
so there's the dashboard element. There is the only most important alerts and notifications element. And then there's also the fact that you're routing some of those alerts through Slack, which is super cool because, of course, everybody lives on Slack these days. If not Zoom, it's Zoom and Slack, I think, took over the world.
Yeah.
So you're basically sending kind of high level alerting. I'm assuming that's customizable through Slack, through whatever channels they want.
Yes, high level alerting of big changes. What we want to do now is add the thresholds, and even the Slack. There is a Slack bot where you can chat up and ask a certain metric from certain connector, and it will pop up that on questioning. It can understand some. There is some amount of NLP there, but we have to improve upon all of those, and that's why we think we need the capital.
Got it. So the first step is really notifications, which in there's kind of a continuum of bot complexity, and at the very bottom you've got kind of notifications. So you're starting with notifications, and then you're working your way up into more of an interactive back and forth. So request response.
Absolutely. And we have a web console also to go with it, because people always like to see the web console where they see all the data, the metrics. Some people, we even have anomaly graph analysis and all of those things. So we've got combination of that. We have both the web console and the bot that goes with it.
So at this point, or not at this point today, but as you roll forward, as you build out the platform, essentially a marketer who's using this, they're going to have this experience of all my stuff is in one place. I can look at it. I can be alerted by it. I can have a conversation, maybe not a conversation, that's probably too strong, but I can ask simple questions of the system and it will report back that data without me wading through a bunch of reports or dashboards or
Absolutely.
visualizations.
Absolutely. And there are some workflows which can also be a conversation, like building a campaign. We want to look at all the data that you have before, help you assist build a campaign. So definitely conversations are a part of the roadmap. Like you said, it's a step-by-step rollout on all of these features.
Okay, and that ties into something else you wrote, which I thought was super interesting. Where you basically said the goal is to have these kind of intelligent recommendations from the system, where it can identify risk, it can predict campaign success. That seems pretty grand, and kind of remove uncertainty. Can you kind of talk about like how do you get there? I don't mean technically. I mean, what does that look like?
Look, at any point of time, can I use an analogy to explain this better?
Yes,
Uh,
sure.
the EPA certified gas mileage on Toyota Camry is about 33 miles or 39 miles. And certainly your Toyota Camry has, I'm not saying you have one, but as an example, your Toyota Camry has about 25 and my Toyota Camry has about 29. And your performance over the period of time. If we have this kind of averages, why can't we do it for campaign? I can look at historical data of your campaign. I whatever your driving pattern determines the efficiency of your vehicle. So your copy, your advertising. I'm again drawing the analogy back to marketing, saying that your capacity to target and do your customer interaction is all the variables. But what are some of the variables of the campaign itself? Launching it properly, launching it to the right segmentation, launching it in the right channel, allocating the right budgets. These are scientific. the creative aspect set aside. So we can use some sort of prediction algorithm to come over there and say, hey, can we leverage this data, the previous campaign data, the effectiveness, and hoping that you deliver on your job of configuring the right copy, the right messaging? Can we help you with segmentation targeting? Can we help you with the channel targeting? Can we help you with budget allocation? And if we got all of this right, what is the probability of getting this campaign to a certain success? So that is what we're trying to talk about.
Okay, and so now you've got this platform in place, or to the degree you have so far, and of course you're building this thing out as you go. What's the outcome for me if I'm a marketer and I'm using this? At the end of the day, what am I getting? Am I just getting some, a pretty dashboard and something I can chat with and alerts on my Slack, or am I saving some time, saving some money, more smartly allocating? Like, what's the sort of net benefit?
Short answer, all, but let me expand on that because it's easy.
Sure.
It's an easy way out. First, you save time. 30% of a marketer's time is really valuable. In 8 hours, if you're spending 2.5 hours just looking at data, half of your day is over. You start at 9 o'clock. By the time you act on your data, it's 11 and a half, 11:30 or so. So why do we need to do that? Can we short circuit that? Is your time valuable? Can you leverage this on creative work? So there goes one answer. Second, costly decisions of misallocation of funds. Oh, I'm running this Facebook campaign. The click rate is fantastic, but guess what? No one converted. LinkedIn, the conversion rate is high, but the number of leads are low. So guess what? As a business, I want conversion. While the lead rate is slow and expensive, I would rather spend on LinkedIn versus Facebook. These kind of decisions are lost opportunities. There's lost marketing dollars. They increase your cost of acquisition. So we can reduce that cost of acquisition. Now, our goal is to put a number on that acquisition. We will come to that and that kind of efficiency soon enough, but we're saving time, reducing marketing wastage. Third, people like performance marketer, marketing analysts, there are multiple people who spend time and do this. All of their time is saved, so they are effective. And over a period of time, you will start to see that even a small medium marketer with no expert performance marketing tip can start to drive the marketing machine without too much of a guidance. Like he can have people, creative people work with him, but the rest of the marketing machine can be run through.
I think what's super cool about this concept is, and you just touched on it, is this idea that maybe you have a smaller company. They don't have a gigantic marketing team. They have one person doing the marketing, and they have 20 or 30, place channels that they might be communicating on. One, they don't have, of course, we're not talking about somebody who has a data science team on board. That's not their situation. So they're kind of drowning in data. They have all these channels that all the data doesn't quite line up, and they're trying to make decisions and deliver good results to the business. And so if they've got this kind of advantage of, one, the data is consolidated and kind of normalized, but more importantly, the system is able to then provide some insights and feedback to them and help them, one, as you said, reduce their time, which is great. But I think the bigger leverage is allocation of spend, right? Because their time only costs X amount of dollars for the business, but the business might spend 100x of that on, or 1,000x of that on ad spend. So if you're able to help them spend or allocate that spend more effectively and reduce some channels and increase other channels, that seems to be the big point of leverage here.
Absolutely. You summarized it really well, Troy. The one thing I would ask is it's not too much of a small company. Even a $1 million revenue all the way to $100 million, this problem is acute. Even $100 million
Okay.
firm has two or three marketers, then everybody is a contractor. There is no point building a big marketing team. And data science is today still dedicated to the core of their business because marketing is not the
Right.
core of their business. They're
Right.
focusing on where they can leverage data science. And
Sure.
believe me, that talent is not easy to come by. So they're actually
Right.
struggling with that. And
I'd say anybody under 500 million is barely able to pull together a data science team for more than a 3-month experiment.
absolutely, absolutely. And that I think is the fun spot of how our data science models can help them and leverage all of this and make them powerful. I'm just telling, like, think of this analogy. 20 years ago, you didn't if you didn't have money, you would not get a stockbroker account. You would not get, if you didn't have a personal finance advisor, you couldn't even place a stock account. Today, Robinhood, everybody's a stock trader and options trader. It's got its negatives, but hopefully not so in the marketing world.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. It's to me, it's the democratization of and making things accessible to smaller organizations. And as you said, it doesn't have to be super small. We're talking still 100, less than $500 million a year, which would be kind of considered SMB, and then 500 to a billion being kind of mid market.
Correct.
Providing high level capabilities and artificial intelligence insights in a package that they can just kind of log in, set it up, and start using. And I think that's the future of AI enabled everything. AI, for business
Absolutely.
products, basically on the web. So I'm super excited to see things like what you are doing, because I think that this is the future of the space. We had SaaS for the last 20 years, and now this is all going to be moving to AI enabled SaaS.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I couldn't have said it any better.
In terms of competitors, I would imagine the biggest competitor is just do nothing, like just keep doing what I'm doing, status quo, essentially.
Yeah, status quo. And the second biggest is the overwhelming aspect of, I have this dashboard and marketing tool. Is this going to somehow save me, kind of thing, right? So that is the biggest competitor. Inertia, first competitor. Second competitor is like, oh, I'm using this Google Analytics dashboard. I'm using a sophisticated tool. So Google Analytics by itself is single channel, does not do cross channel yet properly, and they have no incentive to, because they're all biased towards spending their own dollars on their own platforms. Facebook has its own analytics. I mean, how many analytics platforms does a man need, right?
Right.
So those are the challenges. The third is, there are companies like Panoramic HQ, which is pretty much in the enterprise space. They're $1 billion and above clients, and they have what do you call cloud data warehouse, and still a very custom model for those kind of businesses. And their goal is more about making your marketing analyst life hard or easy, from hard to easy. Whereas
Hmm.
we'd like make the marketer's life easy, make it work. And it's a small medium marketer who can't even spell Panoramic only because it's so expensive.
Right. Right. So you're really trying to access the from the sort of the end of the tail, the small companies working their way towards the larger companies, as opposed to some of these other providers that are sort of working from the enterprise $1 billion market and down or up, whatever, from there, from the middle, basically.
Correct. Our inspiration is the models like HubSpot and Shopify, which started as $8 inbound marketing system, or a $19 host your own t-shirt store kind of a model, and then they grow on to become giants. So I
Right.
think we have an opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not like they're hurting now. I mean, they've turned into these gigantic success stories from these very humble beginnings of working with the solo entrepreneurs and saying, "Hey, look, we just want to provide these tools for you so you can build your business." And I think that's a really cool approach. One of the things kind of related to that you and I talked about is the fact that you are following what would be known as kind of a very typical lean startup customer development, product development kind of a cycle here, and you're looking for customers. So who are you looking for to sort of co-create the product with you?
Anybody who's spending about $3,000 on marketing and within
Okay.
$50,000 is our customer in a month,
That's a,
on a
a
monthly
month.
basis,
So
on a monthly
three
basis.
3,000 to 50,000 per month
Any
if they're
kind of marketing
spending that.
dollars. Yes, you're right to iterate on that.
Okay, so that's a sweet spot. Why there? Why not below 3,000? Why not over 50,000?
Um, Below 3,000, we don't have enough data to deal with it. So we
Okay,
think that data
makes
is
sense.
not significant enough for us to actually put out an insight. I mean, there might be too
Sure.
many noise signals which might not help them understand what that is. And we would be doing a disservice if we said so. The above 50,000, I'm only saying that because they need more sophistication to what they're asking. We'll get there soon enough. And our goal is to cross that chasm of 50,000 soon enough. But my think is this is the average value of dollar spending that they should be doing for us to be effective for them.
Okay. So if you're listening to this and you're somewhere in that sweet spot, I think Roy and his team would love to hear from you. And you probably want to talk to them because it sounds like that. This could be a real opportunity for, I think, a customer in that space with these problems to work directly with you and your team to say, hey, look, I get it. I'm coming in early. This isn't completely baked, but boy, I'd sure like to have the value of this thing and get 30% of my time back and kind of be on the bleeding edge of how this technology is going to kind of roll into the marketing space.
And also stop wasteful spending, if any, that
Right.
is already happening on their marketing budgets.
Right. That seems like a no-brainer. Excellent. How can people find you? What are the best places to locate you and your team?
Or GlanceHQ.ai, type in GlanceHQ.ai, or go to Slack and say Glance or Marketing Analytics. Both those places lead to us. And you can always write me an email, roy@glancehq.ai. I always respond to emails.
Okay, perfect. And we'll put all that in the show notes so that people can just look on it and click on the links. I think that's it. That brings us to the end of the time we had today. Roy, I know we've been trying to set this up for at least a few weeks, maybe longer. So I'm just so appreciative that you're able to make the time for this today. Thank you so much for the conversations we've had up until now as well before the podcast and for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Troy. This was wonderful talking to you.
So that brings us to the end of today's Productive AI podcast with Roy Nallapeta, who's the co-founder of Glance Inc. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please check out the show notes for links to everything that we've discussed today. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.